Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Firehouse Table Talk. I'm your host, Scott Jones, with Sober Life Studios, and of course, with One Brother, One Sister, our nonprofit organization that works with first responders in Florida and throughout the country in getting them training to deal with mental health and addiction issues within their departments and certainly within their communities. And we thank everybody who's involved in that for your great donations. We never charge the first responders for our trainings. We get that supported through sponsors. And we also like to do things like this, is do shows like this where we get a chance to talk to fire and rescue workers, police officers, different people, specifically on this show, the fire and rescue, and talk about what their daily lives are like, things that they have to do, things that we might not know about. Believe it or not, the old show Emergency didn't tell the whole story. We thought it did, but it didn't. There's a lot of things going on there. Now, usually we have Chief Breyer with us. He's got other things going on, but I am thrilled because I've had this guy before. We've talked many times. Chief James Ippolito is with us. James, how are you?
Good, Scott. How you doing?
I'm doing good. And glad you had a chance to sit in with us today.
It's a good thing Chief gets a break and I get to fit in and see you guys.
Hey, that's, what better way to spend a Friday afternoon, right?
Agreed.
Yeah, and we're going live today, so we might get some comments and everything else. But Chief, first of all, how's the year shaping out? I mean, we're like halfway through the summer. How's everything looking as far as within the community and the fire service and rescue service? How's everything looking right now?
Everything's looking great. Crews are in great shape. We're responding to calls as usual. We've been seeing a nice steady incline in calls every year, somewhere between the 700 and 800 calls increase for our department every year, which is quite a bit. And we're definitely on track to hit that again for 2023.
Wow. But you guys got a great organization up there. Wonderful people, terrific facilities. You guys are all about doing the best possible job. Always a joy to come up there and always a joy to talk to you guys. And we appreciate everything you do, man.
Thank you.
All right. With us, we also have, I'm going to butcher your name, even though I practiced it 6 times. This is Lieutenant Michael with an I.
There we go.
Ilizarro.
Ilarazo. That works out.
Ilarazo. Ilarazo. You know what? You probably all came from the same streets in New York. Anyway, Ilarazo. Lieutenant, tell us about what your role is up there at Palm Beach Garden Fire and Rescue.
So obviously I'm a lieutenant, which basically means that I am in charge of the rescue truck and the medical calls and responding to medical emergencies. In addition to that, I'm also on the department's health and wellness committee. I've been on that committee for close to 5 years now. And we've seen it grow quite significantly as far as, workouts. And obviously now we have a dietitian on board. So things are rocking and rolling.
And this is relatively new. How long have you been in the fire service, my friend?
I've been in the fire service. I'm going into my 7th year.
Okay. Well, even in these 7 years, I think the attention to health and wellness has changed drastically, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It began initially when I started, it was starting to come out. But definitely over the past couple of years, it's definitely moved towards the forefront in both physical and mental health.
Excellent. And that brings us to the point of our show today. And I did not get, I spoke to her right before the show, but I did not get the pronunciation of her last name. So I'm going to give it a shot. I mean, all you guys got these names like this. I got Jones. Just make it easy. Switch it. What's wrong with Smith and Clark? Good names. Change them. Here we go. We have Megan. Megan, I'm going to go with Lautz.
You did it. Nailed it.
I nailed it.
Yeah.
I'm going to write that down. It's the first time I've ever nailed it. First time. Megan, you are a registered dietitian, and you work very closely with Palm Beach Garden Fire and Rescue. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about what your job entails with them.
Sure. So I primarily have a consulting role right now with Palm Beach Gardens. So what I actually do is I write an article and 2 recipes a month, which are posted on the wellness website.
Okay. All right. And, obviously you probably answer questions and stuff like that, I'm
Oh,
sure.
yeah, absolutely.
Um,
So I actually work full time for Fairfax Fire and Rescue as their dietitian. And then I have a side business called Rescue RD, which does the consulting for departments that may not have that capacity for a full time role.
and where is Fairfax located?
Just outside of DC on the left side, Virginia.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
All right. I got a brother who lives in Dahlgren, Virginia. It's not far from there. And
I don't know
uh,
where I am at any given point. I'm actually from Baltimore and I commute to Fairfax because I make bad life decisions. So, Virginia.
okay, Baltimore. All right. Well, I used to vacation at Ocean City, Maryland. So
Yeah,
there we
that's
go.
the place to go, right?
There we go. Now, Megan, tell me how did this come about for you to be working with first responders?
Mhm.
And first of all, I mean, was this your thing? This going into dietitian? You're a registered dietitian. You have other things. How did this all come about for you?
Yeah, so it's actually first responder dietitians don't really exist. I know of 3 in the country who work full time for a department, and that's like Boston, and I think DC Fire has one. So it's still not really a career path for dietitians for the most part. At the closest thing we've got is either corporate wellness or sports, which is still a niche within dietetics. I actually fell into working with first responders because there was basically I worked in corporate wellness. I got laid off from Northrop Grumman when they eliminated their wellness program in, I think, 2016. And I sat behind a desk for a couple of months and got stir crazy, much like most of the firefighters on light duty, and fell into a job at an Occ Health clinic as a wellness manager in Montgomery County, Maryland, so on the other side of DC. And just ended up taking to the firefighters really well. I took CPAT, and it took me 3 times and I almost died, but I passed. I did a 24-hour shift with one of the busiest stations that we have in the county. Really just tried to understand firefighters because I have none in my family. Like, I didn't marry a firefighter. My dad's not a fire. I don't have any family in it. So basically just tried to learn by doing, but without the blood, guts, and dead bodies, because I can't do that part.
Well, that's very, very blunt, very
Yeah.
straightforward. Have you learned, or do you have a newfound respect for firefighters and the things that they do?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I always had the respect. The respect was always there because I know I can't do it. That's why I'm a dietitian. I can't touch people. I can't do blood. I can't do anything fun like that. So, I think the next best thing is to serve our first responders, right? Because, especially nutrition, usually when it comes to first responder nutrition, it's like, oh, nutrition's important. Eat your vegetables. And they just kind of leave it there. And it's like, but I'm tired and I don't want to. So how do we, adjust and make it actually fit the lifestyle of a first responder doing shift work and not sleeping and all those things?
Right. Okay. All right. James, I got to ask you, you being the senior statesman of the group here, if we were to bring this topic up and do a show on health, wellness, and nutrition in the fire department 15, 20 years ago, I think we probably would have been laughed off the air, right?
Yeah, it's like Lieutenant La Raza said, this is somewhat new to the fire service. When I started 25 years ago, these things were just not talked about. Health and nutrition sure as heck wasn't talked about, and let alone the mental health side of it. It was pretty much tough up, Buttercup, and let's move along. That's just the way things were, and we have certainly evolved. And this new generation of firefighters coming in, it's pretty much second nature because they've used to it from day one.
Yeah, and I think it's fantastic, actually, and I think certainly more first responders, including police, military, and all these things. Hopefully, they're all adapting the things that you guys are doing as well. One of the things that I was reading, and I guess Megan and Michael, you guys can both kind of speak to this, is there's a lot of concern about how they're doing on the job, but there's also a lot of concern about when you're done with the job and you retire, what kind of shape are you leaving yourself in mentally and physically? Is that something that you're both concerned about with the health and wellness?
Oh, yeah. Because I mean, you hear about it all the time of, at least as of right now, the life expectancy of first responders once they retire is less than 10 years. It's really not very long at all. And a lot of that has to do with a career-long choice of either poor diet, obviously running the calls, insomnia, not sleeping at night. So a lot of those things add up. So unfortunately, the changes that we're making right now with health and wellness, we won't see those in retirement until another 15 years when the group just before me or my group starts to get into retirement, and then we actually start to enjoy our retirement.
Right. Megan, same thing. The results you're seeing now are about job performance, but down the road, what you want is that longevity after the job's over, right?
Oh yeah, the goal is to milk the county for as much as you can, right? Like ideally 25 to 30 years or whatever you put in. So, and that's, the blunt way of thinking about it, right? But to me, it's also, you kind of have to think about of what shape we're leaving our first responders in. This job beats you up. So like, while you might be retiring at 50 and your friends are retiring at 65, 70, like you're pretty beat up by that point. Most of my retirees or those in the drop, the 3 years prior to retirement, they've got a back, shoulder, neck, or knee injury and at least 3 of the above. Plus the sleep deprivation is starting to wear on them. They might have shifted into chief or captain roles, which tend to be a little bit more desk work positions, which is a transition from a nutrition standpoint. You're not moving ambiently, running to calls and that kind of thing. So there are certain adjustments we make as you phase through your career from a nutrition and fitness perspective. But a lot of times, a lot of the information still, when I go to conferences or you look on the internet for firefighters, is just, oh, well, just suck it up. You should, be able to lift stuff over your head when you've blown your both shoulders out. It's like, we need to modify.
Well, I've got to ask, because maybe some people are watching this and they're thinking like, what's the big deal?
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between some guy who's going to just stop and get a fast food burger and fries every day and go to work, and if the other guy's in there eating a salad and alfalfa sprouts or whatever the hell else is on the diet? Does that really make a difference in performance and in longevity?
Oh, absolutely. But the other thing is too, it's not that black and white approach, right? And that's not what I'm here to teach. A lot of people don't usually want the vegetable lady to come to the stations, but I
was actually just being kind of facetious about that.
Oh, no,
I understand
you're fine.
that the healthy diet is not just
salad. But no, it's important that you actually said it that way, because that's actually how firefighters think. They're either on the plan or they're off the plan. They're very black or white when it comes to nutrition and fitness, and even sometimes mental health. Like they're either gung-ho taking care of it and doing all the things, or they're not doing anything and they are just completely rogue, right? So, that's what I'm here to do, is to teach people how to have balance in their life, right? Like if you want to have some ice cream after midnight, I'm perfectly fine with that. But it's when you've had 4 portions at dinner, you got fast food for lunch, and then you're going to have ice cream after in the next 3 hours as well. It's having that balance, right? But it does make a difference when we get people to, incorporate vegetables and fruit and, lean meats, seafoods for omega-3s, because of the exposures. Like you're exposed to, not only are you exposed to carcinogens and the high risk of cancer, 2 out of 3 line of duty deaths currently are related to cancer. And then you also have cardiovascular disease, which is 45 to 50% of line of duty deaths or sudden cardiac events. The things that prevent that are antioxidants, high fiber diets, things rich in fruits and vegetables. The challenge is when you're on tours and you're doing 24-hour shifts and you're not sleeping, it's hard to have the time to make those foods. So we try, a lot of my approach is finding healthier options on fast food, frozen options, canned options, things that are a little bit more portable, quick, and convenient, and fit that first responder lifestyle, so that at least we eliminate some of those barriers.
Absolutely. Chief, I've got to ask, certainly listening to this, and it sounds great. How much weight is the department itself putting behind wellness and nutrition? Are you guys really making this a part of what they need to do, or is it kind of voluntary?
We are trying to interject and give as much knowledge and the resources out there that are available. Obviously we're not going to be at the fire station cooking meals and say, you will eat this. Our goal is to have the subject matter experts in every single field, giving our firefighters realistic options, giving them time during the shift to do the workouts, every opportunity of success. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's up to the individual to do so. But I will tell you, on our end, we have a very, very fit department. And when like I said, you brought back my old days. I remember very clearly days where, dinner was what we called sometimes, oh, look, we're having diner burgers tonight. And diner burgers were, it was fried in butter. That's just because it was a long day shift. We wanted some comfort food, and it was, it was a big party at the Firehouse. But now I defy you to go to a fire station and find anything remotely like that. Now, do they, once in a while, is there a pizza night or something like that? I'm sure, but it is
Right.
very, very, very rare to see that. So, for us, and that's the great thing with partnering with Megan is just how realistic her approach was to all of this. And I consulted with Megan privately. I'm up for my own personal nutrition. Did a few sessions with her, and I was kind of on my own end figuring, okay, look, what do I need a dietitian for? I know I have a choice between grilled chicken and fried chicken. I know the fried chicken's bad. Now, what is a dietitian going to tell me? And I was very surprised to hear a lot of things, from the amount of calories I should be eating every day, which was completely more than I thought I should be eating. The food choices and the different menus and the recipes out there were not only tasted good, but they were nutritious. They were easy to make. Megan will give a recipe for a yield of different number of people, right? So if you go to to one of the websites and just get a normal recipe, it's going to have, a family of 4, family of 2. We might have 12 firefighters at the station. So, Megan will have it very listed out for, how big your crew is and, and what the grocery list is when you go to Publix on shift. Big emphasis on fiber, which is life-changing, to be honest. If you really get into watching your fiber intake, and just simple little things that, Megan harped on with me that still kind of in my psyche, and it took me a little time to get used to, is just simple as how many times you're chewing your food before you swallow it too. So, it's just those little tricks that you can incorporate in your everyday life that I think make a difference.
That's fantastic, Michael, and thanks for the report on the fiber. Glad it's working. Michael, good for all of us. Hey,
that's right.
Now, Michael, I got to ask you, you're in the trenches, you're out there and you're doing you're going out on calls every day. You're seeing the rookies come in, you're seeing some of the old guys still there, whatever you want to say. But how is this being accepted just on a normal daily basis? Are you seeing this taking hold just on individuals?
I would say definitely, for sure. It's one of those things, you show me a stubborn bull, I'm going to show you a fireman, and they're both going to be about the same. I mean, it is kind of tough, especially some of the older firemen. They're kind of set in their ways a little bit, but the younger guys that are getting hired now, some of them don't have life experience. So we're coming in with guys that are 18 to 20 years old that just left mom's house, and you ask them what they know how to cook, and they have an idea of how to boil water, but don't know how to turn the stove on. So with her recipes and everything, it's really helpful in getting everything tailored and helping them be able to cook the meals and make the meals and everything like that. But I'll be honest, a lot of it comes down to, okay, well, what's on sale? Because that is the big one. The food cost those are probably one of the biggest decisions that we make on shift of, do we have training today? And what are we eating for dinner?
Right.
So food costs definitely come into it. And when you start, and when I first started, it was about everybody put in about $10 a meal. And now that's starting to encroach a little bit on the $15 a meal. And it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment, and just with food costs and everything else going up. It's nice that she keeps some of the cheaper proteins, which is fantastic. It's not like we're eating steak every night, which that's the one rule. You never eat steak at the Firehouse.
Why is that?
Because it's either going to be completely overdone and it'll never get cooked. One of the two. It's one or the other. Because just when you're about to pull that steak off the grill is when you get a call.
Yep.
Oh, you don't get to wait and just go on the call after dinner?
Oh, that would be fantastic, but no. So we have our own little rules on what we can cook, and if anybody brings up steaks, it's usually very highly shunned upon to do that.
That's the day off cookouts. That's what that is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Megan, I gotta ask you, with registered dietitian, with any kind of healthy diet,
Mhm.
or at least healthy eating lifestyle, if you will. Timing is important, you know, and unfortunately, you're facing a challenge with firefighters where timing is nothing predictable. Certainly, it would be better not to eat later at night. It'd be better not to do this and not to do those things. You know, how do you work around those things? Are there little tricks into that, or is it just whatever you can do?
Yeah, well, and that's the whole point of having a specialist dietitian is again with not, I have spent a lot of time trying to understand the schedule, like down to the cost, cost per head. It's usually $5 to $6 a head where I'm at for dinner, and then shifts of 6, 10, and 14. It helps to break some of those barriers down. When it comes to timing, like when you're looking at the information that's provided on the internet, it's made for a 9 to 5 person, right? Like
Right.
that's a person who's going home, having dinner with their family, going to bed, and they're probably not very active either. When you look at busier stations and you look at their, like, say their Fitbit or their Apple Watch, most of the busier stations are doing to 10 to 15,000 steps a day, and that may not even include a workout. They're lucky if they got the workout in because of call load, right? So, and the same thing, if you're running a station where you're getting 2 to 4 calls after midnight, you're actually moving and responding to calls, right? Like you're not sleeping through the night and just waking up and being like,
Right.
I could eat. You're waking up and doing stuff. So, you are actually moving more, you're burning more calories. So we should incorporate a midnight snack. Now, of course, like I understand what people want after midnight is usually like ice cream and cake or leftovers or whatever. But you could, if you really want to eat healthier, then having some healthier midnight snacks on hand can be really helpful. So usually what I'm looking at is trying to get a protein and a plant at every meal regardless, but especially at midnight. So a plant is a fruit or a vegetable. Usually I lean more towards fruit after midnight, right? I mean, I know it's still not super realistic. I know I'm already getting laughed at, but I'm used to it. But again, if you're trying to be better and you do want to make better decisions, then you could do fruit and yogurt. You could do Smart Pop, Skinny Pop, white cheddar popcorns. Those are crunchy and a good alternative for chips. Yasso, YASSO yogurt bars are a great ice cream bar that actually tastes like ice cream, and they are higher protein, lower calorie, about 90 calories for like a standard size popsicle bar. I bring those to stations a lot for desserts, and they seem pleased. So there are certainly things that we can adjust around. It's also, what is your motivation? And the other thing that I will mention with this, if you're going to be running a lot of calls, and the biggest challenge for first responders I find is the stuff left on the counter, left on the table, right? The sweets, the treats, the Girl Scout cookies that they left, a pallet of Red Bulls left, all of those things. And, they're obviously my worst nightmares. But, when those things are left on the table, like people will just, cut a donut in half, eat half a donut 7 times a day. And it's like, okay, you have to understand, like that adds up significantly. So what I suggest is trying to have your sweet or your treat or whatever, try to keep it to 1 or 2 a shift at your lowest willpower moment. So instead of having the donut for breakfast, just for funsies, why not have it at midnight, right? Like when your willpower sucks. So planning around your shift is another important part there too.
Well, that's another thing is grabbing and eating foods like that. You might feel like you're energizing yourself, but especially with donuts, by the time you reach your call, you've already burned that energy. It burns fast and then you crash. So, having energy, it's important to eat healthy. Also, eating healthier and paying attention to nutrition also helps with sleep patterns, which are already difficult enough with first responders because of the calls and the stuff they deal with on a daily basis. We're not even going to get into trauma and everything else, but so that nutrition lends itself to healthier sleeping patterns, even if they're broken patterns, right?
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing that impacts first responder sleep, in addition to the lady in the ceiling, is the caffeine, which is a whole tangent, and I'm happy to go on it if you would like.
Well,
everybody's looking away.
I think that's, we get a call. We pour some coffee or Red Bulls or something. We're looking for that quick energy. And so I think caffeine ends up being a crutch for a lot of people, certainly.
Yeah. Well, so one thing that first responders, like a big misconception with the caffeine piece is that caffeine gives you energy. Caffeine binds to adenosine receptors in the brain, which leads to reduced fatigue. but it does not give your body like energy in the form of calories, right? Unless it's, you add creamer or whatever, those kinds of things, sugar, that kind of stuff to the beverage. So a lot of times what happens is, especially for workouts, I have actually gotten some of my first responders off of pre-workout by giving them applesauce pouches or fig bars before their workouts, because then they like actually have physical carbohydrate to use for energy during that workout. Now, am I claiming that like if you ran 4 calls after midnight and you try and have an applesauce pouch and you think you're going to, max lift that day, like that's not probably going to happen. You didn't sleep well. But, if it's a standard day to day, a lot of times if we just add a carb before that workout, they end up having more energy and they're not hitting that wall towards the end of the workout.
What, Chief, what an incredible wealth of knowledge that you're tapping into with Megan, and certainly with other people. I've talked to one of your physical therapists that comes in and does work. It's got to be improving everything there, top to bottom, isn't it?
As far as I can see, yes. That's probably a better question for Lieutenant La Raza to see what he's seeing, in the field. And like I said, we can go to the station and just visually see our firefighters and see what they're eating, and things look good from the outside. And I don't know if we're really ever going to, unfortunately, see the true effects of that until 10, 15 years down the road. But we'll invest whatever needs to be invested to ensure we get that result and that outcome at that 15-year mark. But I'll turn it over to Lieutenant La Raza to kind of get the pulse of what's really happening when I'm not looking.
I'll just cover up your face on the camera as I
That's
say
right.
No. And essentially, like I said, I have noticed a big increase. And again, that also comes into just having a bunch of younger guys come into the stations and into the crews, some of the newer people that we're hiring on, and just in general as a society being more health conscious and more healthy awareness of between workouts and healthy eating and everything. You really don't see that, hey, let's go fry out a bunch of burgers. Like, I mean, we may have burgers once a month, if that. But I mean, that's at my station, and I have a bunch of younger guys on my crew. So a lot of it really does come down to, hey, let's pick out a protein, let's pick out a carb. Or obviously we have the entire list of all of the recipes that Megan's provided for us too. So we'll either look on that for either inspiration or motivation, and that's the other part of it is that she gives us all these recipes and everything, and which is fantastic. But everybody knows, once you get the firemen chefs, a lot of the firemen have their pride and joy of cooking, and you're not going to tell me what to do. So you kind of almost have to slide some of those recipes their way and just be like, hey, why don't we try this today? Let's just check it out. I bet you can't do that. So then you almost have to kind of go after their type A personalities of a dominance and everything.
Well, it's funny because I've had to switch my cooking habits, and I used to I won awards for my chili in New Jersey, and then I had to start cooking healthy because I put on a lot of weight during COVID when I became inactive, and I'm old now, so it's hard to take. So I'm starting to do things different. I've created challenges for myself. I'd say, how could I make something just as good by using better ingredients and different ingredients? So, ground turkey instead of ground beef and things like that. And it becomes a great challenge. I want to ask you also, Lieutenant, that this could have ripple effects, all of this stuff, the health and wellness that you guys are working on there with the nutrition, even with the physical exercise, all those things you guys are learning. It could have a ripple effect in coming home to your families as well. Are you seeing some of that, or is that something you've experienced?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm in a little bit of a different situation in that point. Obviously, because we had spoken before, my wife is actually a trained chef. She went to school. She did all that. So I have that when I come home. It's fantastic. And I mean, I have some other little issues.
So you're saying you've got no input on food whatsoever in your house?
Listen, I don't have to worry about anything. I just get a plate in front of me, and here's my food. Here's my food. And even in my position as a rescue, the Firehouse tradition is the driver of the engine is the one who does a lot of the cooking. So, and mostly just because traditionally engines are the slower unit. They don't run as many calls as, say, the transport of the rescue unit. So both at work and at home, I just get a plate shoved in front of me, and here's what I eat. But as far as bringing that stuff home, I have noticed, and a lot of the guys that do cook at the station, they'll bring it home, they'll cook, they'll be like, hey, we just found this awesome recipe at the station. We cooked it up. Hey, let's bring it home. Let's do it at home too. And that really tries to cut down on people going out to fast foods, going out to restaurants and getting takeout. And, it also kind of brings a little bit of the family dynamic together, because now you guys everybody's home. Everybody's home. Hey, let's just do a little bit of cooking here, versus let's go out to sit at the restaurant and everybody sits on their phones doing one of these all day long. So,
yeah. Chief, that's got to be music to your ears. I know Chief Breyer would love to hear that, because that's your extended family. Your firefighters and your rescue workers, their families are your families as well. And to see that's kind of like the stuff you're doing is having an impact on the outside must feel great, right?
Yes. And even, just the idea of the crews being together, eating together is important. And, that's something that I remember and miss from my days on shift. And I'm happy to hear that it's still alive and well, and that the importance of that's still there. And actually it's even more so now, because now I'll see it's actually 2 meals a day. I usually see breakfast and I'll see dinner together. The lunch is kind of sporadic because there's just so much going on throughout the day. As we've got these devices in our hands now, we've, the tenders at the stations they've become more detached from each other, where it's just easy to go in the back room and go watch a movie on your iPad. When I was on shift, they didn't exist. And if you wanted to watch TV, it was together as a crew on the recliner in front of the TV together. And that kept us all together too. So it's nice to see that happening and keeping that tradition alive, because I think that's important for the mental well-being as well.
Absolutely. Megan, you've got quite a challenge in all of this with, it's working in corporate wellness, then moving over to something as frenetic as first responders, their lifestyle, the things they have to do. It's either dead stop or go like hell for however long. What do you think needs to happen to bring this around full circle so that it's fully adopted? I mean, are we heading in the right direction, or is there more to be done?
I think we're definitely headed in the right direction. I think the biggest thing that I find with working with first responders is to truly meet people where they're at. And like I said, it's a lot of first responders with that type A personality. They're either on the plan or they're off the plan, and it's black or white, and there's no gray area. So a lot of my education is teaching that there is a gray area, and also like kind of lowering the bar, right? So a lot of people who come in to work with first responders, they see the tactical athlete, they see the health risks, they see all these big glaring like red flags, and they're like, oh my God, we need to do something extreme. Like, let's make them vegan, let's make them vegetarian, let's make them cut out all sugar and sodium. Like, all of these things, like where it's like, you can never have this ever. And it's just not the most realistic approach. Like, that's asking a firefighter to get to a second story window without a ladder, right? So that's a lot of the stuff in the education that I provide, is like trying to provide these rungs on the ladder so that it's easier for them to get to that second story window, to get to the goal. And then also adjusting as sometimes you fall off the ladder and we have to rebuild. So, you have a baby, you get divorced, you have all these normal, human experiences that are, piled on top of the trauma, the sleep deprivation, and all those things that first responders experience. So I think it is slowly shifting, especially I know that I'm pushing for more dietitians in this field, and providing education to other dietitians on how to work with this population, which mostly involves get good at cursing, get good at talking crap, and bring snacks to every station visit. And that's pretty much what I do.
I love it. I love it. Has this been rewarding for you getting into this? I mean, is this where you want to stay now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wasn't planning on having a business, and here I am with a business. It's really exciting to work with first responders, because like it does feel like I'm actually making an impact in an area that hasn't really been touched before. So, and obviously I can't do the blood, so this is the next best thing for me.
I'm with you. They even asked me to do a ride along. Chief Breyer had asked me to do a ride along, and a few of those, and it's like I'm just like I just don't know if I want to do that.
They're not that bad. You just have to hope.
I love going and training. I spend all days with them. We've been training different departments throughout South Florida. We've been working with Palm Beach Gardens for a long time.
Mhm.
but I just don't know.
They put you in gear yet?
No, see, that's the thing is,
Oh.
Come
I don't
on.
even,
You're
I
not
don't
doing
even, dress-
anything fun.
I didn't, even as a kid, I didn't like dressing up for Halloween. So, I mean, come on, it's just not me.
Yeah.
Listen, as a compromise to riding, if we can get you to cook your chili for the next chili cook-off and get in our team, we'd be real happy about that.
I'll tell you what, the secret to a good chili, you start with 2 pounds of bacon.
That sounds about right.
That's the
Yeah.
secret to
There we
good
go.
chili. If
See,
I
but-
don't have to, if I just got to make it good and not healthy, I'm in. I'm cooking for you guys. I'm
Yeah,
in.
but you don't understand. Like at a fire station, it's a pound per head. So
Right.
you're not even.
Right.
Oh,
you're
I'm not
scratching
even in the
surface.
ballpark, right?
Yeah, you're not even there yet. So until you're at a pound per head, I don't know if your chili's all the way there.
It'll be there. I'll have it ready.
All right, done.
Guys, this has been great. Let me get some final thoughts from each of you. Megan, we'll start with you. Final thoughts on how important this is and why you're so excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've made a career in this, so it is really important because the goal again is to milk the county for what it's worth and get that 30-year pension, right? So, and also, you'll feel better now. If we have you eating better now, your sleep improves, your energy levels improve, you'll feel more comfortable in your clothing. So, it has an impact now and down the line. So, we can actually meet you where you're at and slowly progress you to where you need to be. And it starts with small changes, one extra veggie, one other piece of fruit. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. Lieutenant, final thoughts. You got involved with the health and wellness for a reason. How you feeling about things and what do you think?
No, I'm excited. My main goal right now, my kids are 2 and 6, and I want to see them grow old as well. So my goal is right now, obviously, is more focused on performance and the physical aspects. And, I've got the meal plans and I've got the tips and everything from Megan as far as keeping that on top of it and then keeping on this trend. And then now it becomes a lifestyle. I want to be able to push past and, see my kids get married, see my grandkids, carry my grandkids around, and, hopefully one day even see my great grandkids.
Fantastic. And Chief Ippolito, obviously, this is good for you. You and I have both seen a lot of retirees, physical, mental, emotional issues left and right. And everything you guys are doing are heading into a direction where you're going to have healthy people leaving service. And that's what you really want, isn't it?
Yes. And for the fire chiefs that are looking to come up with a program like this, my advice is find experts in every single one of the areas in which you want to improve that understand firefighters. I had an old fire chief one time say that, we're not special, we're just different, and that can't be any more true. And we have specific needs, and our psyche is very different, and the way we think is very different. And when you're coming up with your program, be less prescriptive and more resourceful with everything. As we had each, the soup and nuts to every single part of our area, it seemed, we got more buy-in over time when we gave the resources and options and allowed people to choose those pieces versus saying, here's what you're going to do and do exactly this, and this is best for you. That didn't seem to go over as well. And there's some of the lessons we learned and have modified our program over time. And I think that's a secret recipe.
Absolutely. Well, from One Brother, One Sister, Sober Life Studios, I want to thank you guys, all of you guys, including you, Megan, for your service, because you're right. You are part of the team now. Anybody who contributes to the health and well-being of our first responders is a first responder themselves. So thank you. And thank all of you for taking your time to share a little bit about what goes on with you guys each day in the fire service up at Palm Beach Gardens Fire and Rescue. Again, people just remember, when you're out and about, you see somebody in the fire rescue, you see somebody from the police department, you see any of our first responders, take a moment, thank them for their service, be kind, know that they keep us safe so that we can go about, lay on our beaches and go to our jobs and drive our cars on the highways, and they take care of the rest, and we need to thank them for that. So, and I thank you guys all for your service as well. All right. If you guys just hang in there for 1 second, I'm going to close out the show. Then I'll come back on with you and we'll close up ourselves. But for everyone out there watching, I want to thank you for watching Firehouse Table Talk. I'm your host, Scott Jones, with James, Mike, and Megan. Thank you for joining us today. We'll catch you next time.